Not giving a fuck is easier than you think. You've probably heard it before. Stop caring what people think. Sounds simple, right? But let's face it, every awkward glance, passive-aggressive email, or offhand comment can send your brain spiraling into a vortex of, what did they mean by that? It's exhausting, and here's the kicker. Most of the things we lose sleep over don't even matter. But here's the twist. Not giving a fuck doesn't mean becoming a heartless robot who never cares about anything. Instead, it's about learning to care about the right things while cutting the noise. Imagine how much lighter life would feel if you could let go of the guilt, the overthinking, the endless need to please. We're going to dive deep into why we care too much, the surprising truth about emotional detachment, and how to start living with clarity, confidence, and energy that's focused on what actually matters. By the end, you'll not only know how to care less, you'll finally understand why that's the ultimate superpower and how to get rid of it. For good. Chapter 1. Why we care too much. The origins of overcaring. Here's a question you probably haven't asked yourself. Why do you care so much? No, really. Why does a passing remark from a stranger stick in your brain like a splinter? Why does the thought of someone not liking you feel like a personal failure? The answer lies in something ancient, something primal. It's not just you being sensitive. It's your brain doing exactly what it's designed to do. Long before Instagram likes or awkward networking events, our ancestors relied on one thing for survival: belonging. Back in the tribal days, fitting in wasn't just about being invited to the campfire. It was life or death. If you were cast out, you were toast, literally. This evolutionary wiring still runs the show, making us hyper-aware of social dynamics. That little twinge of anxiety when someone gives you side-eye? It's the same mechanism that once made our ancestors scan for signs of disapproval in the tribe. Then there's childhood. Think back to when you were a kid. How often were you told to be nice, polite, or don't upset anyone? You probably learned pretty quickly that approval came with rewards, praise, affection, or just avoiding trouble. Over time, this conditioning sinks in deep, and you start equating other people's opinions with your own worth. Fast forward to adulthood, and the habit of pleasing others becomes second nature, even when it drains you. And let's not forget fear. Fear is the fuel for overcaring. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of judgment. We bend over backward trying to prove ourselves, thinking that if we just get everyone to like us, the fear will vanish. Spoiler, it doesn't. The problem is, this hyper-awareness doesn't help us survive anymore. It just keeps us stuck, overthinking every text, every tone of voice, every glance. But what if there's another way? What if you could stop letting these fears and habits control you? That's where the real transformation begins. And it's not about shutting down your emotions or pretending not to care. It's about something far more liberating. Next, we'll tackle the big misconception. Is not giving a fuck just apathy dressed up as self-help? Let's find out. Chapter 2. The misconception of not caring. Let's clear the air. Not giving a fuck doesn't mean you're signing up to be a reckless, apathetic mess. In fact, it's the opposite. Somehow, the phrase has been hijacked to conjure images of someone burning bridges, ignoring responsibilities, or living with total disregard for others. But that's not freedom. That's chaos. True freedom isn't about caring less about everything. It's about caring intentionally. Think of it like cleaning out your mental closet. Right now, you're probably hoarding every passing worry, opinion, or expectation thrown your way. Your brain is stuffed with outdated fears and useless insecurities, leaving no room for the things that genuinely matter. When you stop trying to juggle it all, you don't become indifferent. You become laser-focused. Here's the truth. Caring about everything equally is exhausting. Your attention is finite, like a phone battery. Waste it on petty drama, random criticisms, or the urge to impress strangers, and you'll have nothing left for your goals, your relationships, or yourself. The magic of not giving a fuck is in knowing what deserves your energy and letting the rest fade into background noise. But here's where most people trip up. They think selective caring means selfishness or shirking responsibility. If I stop worrying about what people think, won't I become a bad friend, a lazy worker, A terrible partner? Actually, no. When you stop giving a fuck about the trivial, you free up space to deeply care about what matters most, whether that's your family, your dreams, or simply your peace of mind. It's not apathy, it's clarity. The goal isn't to abandon your emotions, but to channel them. Imagine walking through life with a weight off your shoulders because you finally stopped sweating the small stuff. That's the power of selective focus. And the best part? Once you master this mindset, prioritizing becomes second nature. So, how do you decide what matters and what doesn't? That's where the real shift happens. Up next, we'll break down the art of prioritization and show you exactly where to place your precious fucks. Chapter 3: The Power of Prioritization. Where to place your fucks. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't care about everything. But here's the liberating flip side. You don't need to. The secret to mastering not giving a fuck is prioritization. Choosing what truly deserves your energy and letting the rest go. The good news? Prioritization isn't some mystical skill reserved for CEOs or monks. It's a muscle you can build, and once you do, your life starts to feel a whole lot lighter. Let's start with this. What really matters to you? No, not what should matter. What actually lights you up, grounds you, or aligns with your deepest values? Most of us don't take the time to answer this question honestly. We say things like family or success because they sound right, but when we dig deeper, we realize we've been pouring time and energy into things that don't align with who we are. Here's how to fix that. Start with clarity. Grab a notebook and ask yourself, what do I value most in life? Is it meaningful relationships? Inner peace? Creative freedom? Don't overthink it. Just write. The goal is to uncover the non-negotiables that fuel your happiness and fulfillment. Once you've nailed down your core values, it's time to prioritize. Tools like the Eisenhower Matrix can be a game changer here. It's simple. Divide your tasks into 4 categories: urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and neither urgent nor important. Spoiler: most of the energy-draining stuff lives in that last category. Let it go. Another trick? Adopt the hell yes or no approach. If something doesn't excite you or align with your values, say no. Steve Jobs was a master at this. He once said, "Focusing is about saying no." That's how he created the simplicity Apple is famous for. He filtered out distractions and doubled down on what mattered. You can do the same in your own life, even if it's not about designing iPhones. By learning to prioritize, you're not just clearing mental clutter, you're reclaiming your power. Every no to something trivial is a yes to what truly matters. But there's one more piece to the puzzle. Even when you know your priorities, emotional attachment to the wrong things can still trip you up. Next, we'll dive into how to cultivate emotional detachment and why it's the ultimate freedom. Chapter 4: How to cultivate emotional detachment. Imagine this. You're scrolling through your phone, waiting for a reply to that text you sent hours ago. With every minute of silence, your brain invents a new narrative. Did I say something wrong? Are they mad? What if I blew it? It's a classic case of emotional attachment. Investing so much in an outcome you can't control that it starts to control you. Here's the truth. Attachment to outcomes is like quicksand. The harder you cling, the deeper you sink. Emotional detachment, on the other hand, is the rope that pulls you out. But let's be clear. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It's not about shutting down your emotions or not caring about anything. It's about loosening your grip on things that don't deserve to hold you hostage. And the best part? You can train yourself to do it. The first step is awareness. Most of us don't realize how tightly we're holding on to things until we start to crack. The next time you catch yourself spiraling, whether it's over a text, a mistake, or someone's opinion, pause. Notice what's happening in your body. A racing heart, clenched jaw, tight chest. These are your attachment alarms. Acknowledge them without judgment. Just by naming the emotion, "I'm feeling anxious about this text," you create a gap between you and the feeling. That gap is where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness isn't just sitting cross-legged in silence. It's a way to break free from the overthinking loop. One simple technique: try the observer mindset. Imagine you're watching your thoughts on a screen, like a movie. Instead of getting sucked into the drama, you're just a spectator. Thoughts pop up, you notice them, and then they drift away. No need to grab onto every single one. Another key to detachment: zooming out. When you're caught up in the moment, every little thing feels like the end of the world. But will that missed text, awkward conversation, or harsh comment really matter a year from now? Probably not. Viewing life through a long-term lens gives you perspective, and perspective is kryptonite for over-attachment. The beauty of emotional detachment isn't just peace of mind, it's freedom. When you're no longer tethered to every outcome, you can focus your energy on what really matters. But even if you master detachment, there's still one challenge that looms large: other people. How do you resist the pull of social pressure without losing your humanity? That's what we'll explore next. Chapter 5: Overcoming social pressure without losing your humanity. Let's face it, people aren't going to roll out a red carpet the moment you decide to care less. Some will judge you, criticize you, or worse, try to guilt trip you into submission. It's almost like the universe has a built-in system to test your resolve. But here's the good news: you don't have to choose between standing your ground and being a decent human being. You can do both, and it starts with mastering the art of balance. First, let's talk about guilt trippers. You know the type. They drop comments like, "Oh, I guess you're too busy for me now," or "You used to care more about this." These are emotional traps designed to reel you back in. The trick? Don't take the bait. Instead, respond with empathy, but not compliance. Try this: "I see where you're coming from, and I value our relationship, but I have to prioritize what's best for me right now." It's firm but kind, and it signals that your boundaries are non-negotiable. Then there's judgment. Whether it's a snide remark or a subtle eye roll, judgment thrives on one thing: your reaction. If you feed it by defending yourself, over-explaining, or snapping back, it grows. But if you let it roll off like water on a duck's back, it loses all its power. One of the best tools here? Humor. Picture this. Someone says, "Wow, you've really changed. You don't care about anything anymore." Smile and say, "You noticed? Took me a while to perfect it." Self-deprecating humor is disarming because it shows you're confident enough not to take yourself too seriously. Now, let's tackle criticism, the dreaded cousin of judgment. Some criticism is constructive, but much of it is just noise. How do you tell the difference? Ask yourself, does this feedback come from someone whose opinion aligns with my values? If not, thank them politely and move on. If it does, reflect and respond thoughtfully. Either way, the goal is to stay grounded, not swayed by every gust of opinion. The beauty of these strategies is that they don't just protect your peace, they strengthen your relationships. When you set clear boundaries while staying respectful, you earn the kind of respect that lasts. But there's still one thing pulling at your energy: overextending yourself. Next, we'll explore how cutting back on commitments can recharge your mental battery and give you the clarity to focus on what truly matters. Chapter 6: Reclaiming Your Energy, the Physics of Fewer Fucks. Have you ever felt completely drained by the end of the day, even though you didn't do anything physically exhausting? That's the hidden cost of mental bandwidth. Every worry you entertain, every argument you replay in your head, and every ounce of energy spent caring about things that don't matter chips away at your finite reserves. Yes, finite. Your mental energy is like a phone battery. It starts full, but depletes with every app you open. The problem? Most of us don't even realize how many apps we've got running. Think about this. You wake up feeling refreshed, but before you've even had your coffee, you're scrolling through social media, absorbing a deluge of bad news, fake perfection, and pointless drama. By the time you get to work, someone's passive-aggressive tone eats at you for hours. Then there's that lingering resentment toward a toxic friend who always drains the room of air. One by one, these little things nibble at your energy until there's nothing left. You're mentally spent, not because of what you did, but because of what you carried. Here's where it gets liberating. You don't have to carry it all. Reclaiming your energy starts with cutting the excess. Start by limiting exposure to the things that drain you. A quick win? Take control of your inputs. Unfollow accounts that make you feel less than, mute that group chat full of endless complaints, and adopt a less is more philosophy with news consumption. Stay informed, sure, but ask yourself, do I need a play-by-play of every crisis happening across the globe? Probably not. The same goes for people. You don't owe everyone access to your energy. If someone consistently leaves you feeling depleted, set boundaries. This isn't about being rude, it's about protecting your mental bandwidth. Think of it as decluttering your mind in the same way you declutter your home. Minimalism isn't just about tossing out old clothes, it's about clearing out the emotional and mental junk that no longer serves you. The reward? More space for the things that light you up. You'll find yourself more present in your relationships, more creative in your work, and less bogged down by the noise of life. When you care less about what doesn't matter, you can care deeply about what does. But there's a catch. All the energy in the world won't help if you're unsure of who you are or what you value. Next, we'll dive into how to build an unshakable sense of self and why it's the foundation for true freedom. Chapter 7. Building an unshakable sense of self. Imagine walking into a room without that creeping voice in your head whispering, "What do they think of me?" No overanalyzing, no second guessing, just a quiet confidence that comes from knowing exactly who you are. That's the power of an unshakable sense of self, and it's not some magical gift reserved for the lucky few. It's something you can build, step by step. At the core of this is self-worth. Here's the harsh truth. As long as your sense of worth is tied to external approval, you'll always feel vulnerable. Why? Because you're outsourcing your happiness to things you can't control. A compliment lifts you up, a criticism knocks you down. It's an exhausting way to live. The alternative? Internal validation. Instead of waiting for someone else to tell you you're good enough, you decide it for yourself. Start with self-affirmation. Yes, it sounds cheesy, but it works. Think of it as training your brain to focus on your strengths instead of your perceived flaws. Every morning, take a moment to name 3 things you're proud of, big or small. Maybe you handled a tough situation with grace, or maybe you just got out of bed when it felt impossible. Over time, these small acknowledgments build a foundation of self-respect that no external opinion can shake. Next, embrace shadow work. This isn't about fixing yourself, it's about understanding yourself, flaws and all. We all have parts of ourselves we'd rather hide, insecurities, mistakes, or traits we don't like. But those shadows hold valuable lessons. Instead of shoving them down, confront them with compassion. Ask yourself, why does this bother me? Or, what can I learn from this? By making peace with your imperfections, you rob them of their power to control you. And here's the most freeing mindset of all. Nobody cares as much as you think. We're all the main characters of our own stories, which means most people are too busy worrying about themselves to scrutinize you. That awkward thing you said in a meeting? Forgotten. That time you tripped in public? A blip on someone else's radar. When you realize how little others are actually paying attention, self-consciousness starts to dissolve. Building an unshakable sense of self isn't about never doubting yourself. It's about knowing that even when doubt creeps in, you're still solid at your core. And when you no longer depend on others for validation, you unlock a kind of freedom that's truly life-changing. Now here's the real twist. This journey doesn't have a finish line. It's a practice, not a destination. But every step you take toward clarity, confidence, and peace is a step toward living the life you've always deserved. So, start small, stay consistent, and watch how the world shifts as you begin to prioritize yourself. Not in a selfish way, but in a way that honors your worth. Because the ultimate truth? When you care less about what doesn't matter and deeply about what does, you don't just change your life. You become unstoppable.